But this is my question that I posed to the guys before we went live, and Infinite Umbra said, "Boom, I'd like you to ask that question and be serious about it." So here's a serious question. Ever since the multi-platform strategy was announced, there's been 4 games that went over, right? That's it. Now, I understand there's rumors for Starfield, there's rumors for Hellblade, there's rumors for Forza, but those are just rumors, folks. The only other games that we know absolutely for sure is happening in 2025 for multi-platform is Doom, which we already know, Indiana Jones, which we already know, and the next Call of Duty. And now, of course, The Outer Worlds. So now it's 4. That's right. So it's 4. There's 4 multi-platter games going over to PlayStation as well as PC. Some of those games, in my opinion, may show up on the Switch too. I don't know which ones, but then that's when Xbox, Microsoft has run the gambit, because now Xbox Game Studios has games literally on every platform. Switch to PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. I don't understand how you could look at that as an L for Xbox, unless you are, rolling in the list wars, the console war shenanigans. But the question that I have to ask, and I'm being very serious here, and I really would like the chat to get involved here. What has Xbox done to take something away from you as a consumer and an Xbox fan and put it on PlayStation? Have they done that? Well, the answer is they have not. Now, have they lost your faith, your trust? That's a you thing. They haven't lost my faith or trust, because I'm getting the most for my dollar in Xbox Game Pass. The hardware that I have is the hardware I play that I enjoy. I enjoyed the crap out of Indiana Jones on my Series X and everything that comes with it. They haven't taken anything away from me. What they have taken away from a lot of people who consistently are in the community doing list war shenanigans, that's what has happened. And at the end of the day, Umbra, and I'm going to go to you first on this, because you have a stout opinion, and I want people to hear. Again, this is where we're being serious, folks. I'm not being facetious, and I'm not downplaying your thoughts, theories, or your feelings on this. If you feel disenchanted with the brand, I hear you. But the question that I pose for everybody in this chat, and there's 500 people here already, what has Xbox taken away from you as a gamer / consumer that they've given to PlayStation or anyone else? The answer is absolutely nothing. They have not taken anything off of your plate to give it to somebody else. They are just spreading it around to other people. And I don't like the mainstays going over there, the Trinity, if you will. The same way I feel that there's no way God of War, Uncharted, or pick your other favorite third PlayStation game should come over to Xbox. It doesn't need to. But Umbra, I'm going to hand off the mic to you, brother.
And that's a good table setting right there. And really, it comes down to, ultimately, you're not getting anything taken away from you. Now, you can argue exclusivity, which I understand. And again, the only time you would hear me really complain, and I've said it many times, is really what you just said, Boom. And that's the Trinity, essentially, right?
Yeah.
You could probably throw Fable in there too, because, I always thought of Fable that way. Although they didn't quite get to make it a tentpole, it should have been all along, in my view.
I agree.
But yeah, Halo, Forza, Gears, those need to be exclusive in my mind, because I still believe exclusivity matters. That's where I see that. And some certain tent poles, and I had to have this discussion with somebody way back, and they were like, well, exclusive. Yeah, there's a difference, though, between a first-party title and a tent pole. Those are tent poles that I feel help make the brand what it is. Halo it's undeniable that's what helped make Xbox what Xbox is. So you now have to come to the thought of, and we've had this kind of, I guess, crisis, if you will, with Xbox games going to PC. You know what I mean? So like we're in this mode now again, where there's another transition that's going to seemingly happen. You had Jazz coming out saying that there's no, in this point, it's not going to be any exclusives. It's just all timed or whatever, right? Okay, listen, I don't necessarily like that, right? But now where I've moved on to, as far as gaming more on PC, is open my eyes a little bit. And now I say this not expecting everybody who is gaming on Xbox or wherever you are to do what I'm doing and go to PC. Is it is expensive, depending on what you get, of course.
Of course.
And it's another, it's a big investment to move away from what you're doing. But that's why I would say hold your horses, because there are a lot of things that Microsoft is doing that's going to go to keeping you with, I guess, whole, so to speak. And I'll get to that in a second. This is my thing. So people were like, hey, I don't like this, and I don't want you all to try to sugarcoat this and cover from Microsoft. And I get that 100%. I get that perspective. This is the thing I would say. Outside of them not taking anything away from you, because I agree, if they took something specifically and said, okay, only PlayStation or PC would get this, you won't get this, then yes, everybody should be revolting 100%.
Indeed. 100%.
I do understand the issue of those going over there, and then people will be like, well, why do we have to give up these things when the PlayStation is not giving up anything? I get that sentiment too, but you have to understand where that viewpoint and feeling is coming from. You know what I mean? And it goes back to tribalism. It goes back to the console wars. It goes back to the list wars, as you mentioned a while ago. Boom. It does go to that. If you look past everything else, that's what it is. So now you have to ask yourself, am I going to stay on Xbox? Because I've seen more than a few people like, I'm leaving. I'm just going to get a PC, et cetera, et cetera. I've even discussed with some people who have now sworn off even playing any Xbox titles, any first party titles, because they don't like the way the company is moving. Now, see, you're not going to get me to do that, because
that's literally cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Absolutely. Now, hey, I got respect for them. If they got that restraint and they got that such a integrity to say, I'm going to hold off from playing all these great games coming, but that ain't going to be me. I can tell you that right now. Halo is going to get played, especially Unreal. You crazy? You think I'm giving that up? No, sir. You got Doom. You got Elder Scrolls. You got all these other guys. I can go on and on. You're right. I'm never giving that up just because they didn't make the moves I wanted them to make with their business. And that's where that's the change, I think, in mind that we have to come to.
Yes.
This is a business move. It always has been. And I think because of the closeness we've had in talking with execs and them being accessible to us a lot of ways, it made us feel more connected, which is what they deserve applause for that, because nobody else does that but Xbox, right? We can all say that comfortably. I talk with Aaron sometimes. I know you talk with other people, you know what I mean? Like, they will communicate with you. And I think because of that, though, we've taken on this thought of, I don't want to say codependence, but we've taken on this thought process of, yeah, they're one of us. We're all in this on together. And then you got Satya, who's like, nah, I don't like this business move you're making, right? We're going to change this up. And you all have to understand, this is not a field decision. You can see that. It's pretty obvious. And then you could tell by the moves they made, because, and also I would say this, I can understand people also feeling a way that they feel that Phil and team lied to them, because they did state other things and then they changed. We cannot ignore that, but you have to understand why that happened. And I think, sure, you might say, well, why do I care about that? That's not my problem. That's theirs. And you would be right. But I'm just saying, this is a factor of knowing what issues have led to what. It's not so much that he just lied. It's that these changes were thrust upon him. So I give a little credence to that and say, okay, listen, it's nothing he can do. If big boss tell you this is what's going to happen, and they want all those MAUs, and they want all all that money that's possible to be squeeze out of wherever they can get them, out of whatever pocket, that's just what they're going to do. So you have to understand that it's always been a business. It's never been about them being our friends. And once you get that out of your head, everything else will come to you real easy. That's the thing I would say to everybody. Now, as far as what you want to do going forward, Xbox isn't going anywhere yet, right? And this is what I was talking about earlier, where I would say you all shouldn't fear that too much, because they still have the Project Roseway. Project Roseway is what we've been talking about before, where we spoke on it, and they are going to not only have the handheld possibility, but they're going to have it where Xbox is literally
It's an
accessible
open platform
everywhere.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, and it sounds crazy, but once they explain it, I think everybody, even those who are on the fence about these moves they're making, are probably going to be smiling ear to ear. And it's because the question has always been, well, Xbox, this can't be an Xbox because I can't play I can't access my games I own, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's what they're trying to do here. You see what I mean? So they're trying to do that and circumvent that worry by making your games, all that you own, accessible no matter what device you decide to play it on. And
Exactly.
if that happens, nobody should be upset with this, in my opinion. Now, that's just my view. And I would add to that, keep in mind the thought of third-party launchers and things like that, like Steam, all of that being accessible too. That's what they're talking about doing. So people would say, well, Sony don't give the games over. Well, through Steam, you would have it.
Exactly.
Now, PlayStation might not be like, here you go, keep the party moving, but you're going to get them anyway. Because somebody had argued it too. Yeah, but Sony's not giving it. I don't care what Sony does. If old Lord and Savior Valve, what's his name? Gabe Newell. If old Gabe is giving me the access to these games through the proxy, I don't care. I'm still getting access to those games. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of positive things that's coming too. And I can understand though if people are feeling the negative right now. It's one of those things. And it's just, I would say this. What do you value more? Right. And that's the thing what people have to come to. Do you value being the games more? Because I'm not, like I said, I'm not giving up these games. I'm not giving up the service of Game Pass. Is still the best in the business. There's no argument to be made against that. I would understand though if others feel differently. I'm not going to try to convince you.
Right.
I'm just simply saying, look at it, try to look at it outside of what has been and where we're going. And if that is to you not good enough, and you feel principally that they lied and they changed too much, and this is not what you signed up for, then hey, you got to make that decision for yourself. I would just simply say Xbox is not going anywhere just yet. We have at least another console or two cycle to go. And that we know that because Satya said that himself. Now plans change.
Yeah.
But, we know that there's a next gen coming. That's at least 6-7 more years right there. Probably 8 right there alone. And I would venture to say at least 2 more. I would, if not just this one, there's another after that. That's just from my own thought. But we know it's a next gen coming. So it's not like Xbox is just about to go to the wayside. It's just about how are they going to go about getting there and what matters most. And maybe you might say, hey, I can just get me a PlayStation and play my games over there, the Xbox included. Hey, do your thing.
You can do that, yes, but you also have to remember that you're paying $76.43 per game.
Absolutely. Now
that's the difference.
That could be circumvented if Sony would just acquiesce and allow Game Pass over there, but they're not going to do that. Right?
They will never allow it on there, because what that ultimately does is take. Their service is rubbish.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a fact. I know people are like, well, Boom, they got more games. Yes, they have a giant list of PlayStation 1 games and PlayStation 2 games that play like the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2.
Right.
Do you find value in that? Because if I recall correctly, PlayStation gamers have been throwing that in our faces for years. They don't play old games.
They don't want old games. That's what they told us.
But all of a sudden
they meant old Xbox games. That's what it was.
Yeah, that's what it is. So I want to focus the next set of questions to Jamie. Now, this is the big question. When you look at Xbox's strategy, they want Xboxes everywhere, which is where you get this is an Xbox. And they are trying to find new customers in new locations, whether that be mobile, whether that be on your tablet, your laptop, your PC, your console. So everyone that I just mentioned are customers. They're consumers. Consumers are needed to spend money, and they don't care where you play your game. If you buy the game, they're making money. If you play the game that you just bought on your tablet on your PC, on your phone, on your computer, or on your Xbox, it doesn't matter. If you buy the game on PlayStation, Doom Dark Ages, you bought the game for $76.43. Sony gets their 30%. Microsoft gets 70%. If you buy Indiana Jones potentially on the Switch too, let's just say that they poured it over there. I don't know. Call of Duty's definitely going. So you know what? Let's use Call of Duty. Nintendo gets 30%. Xbox gets 70%. What's the common denominator factor here? Customers, us, gamers, across a plethora of platforms. So when I hear, Jamie, people talk about, and there are a couple in the chat here, why are they going to make a console? It doesn't make any sense. Why are they going to make a handheld? They're going the way of Sega. But are they? Because if you read the tea leaves, and I don't think you got to be a master in this, just read the room. The room is they are in the hunt for customers. And if you're suggesting that the next console, which is basically confirmed, it has been confirmed that they are working on industry-changing hardware. And we're going to get into that even more specifically with what Satya Nadella said in the second half of the show. But how does it make sense, Xbox fans, that you're telling me in the chat here now, some of you are telling me that there's no reason to have hardware? Does it make financial sense, Jamie Moran, to abandon console when there is a literal market of 20 million plus players that buy consoles like me? They're going to tell me, no, you know what? You don't count, Boom. You got to go buy a PC if you want to play Xbox. That is essentially cutting off your nose to spite your face. That ideology has no sensibility whatsoever. And I think we go right back to the first question. What has Xbox taken away from you as a gamer/consumer and given to someone else that you can't do on your current Xbox? And the answer is absolutely nothing. They've taken nothing from you. As a matter of fact, as an Xbox gamer, who some people suggest are second-class citizens, you get all of this value. Just look at what's happening next year. Massive amount of first-party games day and date into Xbox Game Pass, where 4 of those games will, of course, launch on PlayStation for $76.43. Just for the base game. 4 of them. And more importantly, and this is where I don't have to say this because I don't need to be rah-rah or get patted on the ass. But think about this for a second. Put this into absolute dollars and cents perspective. PlayStation, they have one first-party game, and that is Ghost of Yotai, if it releases next year. Now, you say, well, wait a second. What about Death Stranding? They don't own that IP anymore. That is Kojima. Kojima has already said that Death Stranding franchise is coming to everything. It landed on Xbox. I bought it. You bought it. My brother just got 1,000 out of 1,000 achievements, and he platinumed it. That's how much he loves that game. So think about that. They have Death Stranding, a timed exclusive, and Ghost of Yotai next year. MLB The Show, but that's a multiplat. The biggest releases in 2025 for PlayStation 5 are Xbox-owned IP. All of those games releasing on PlayStation next year are Xbox Game Studio owned. Think about that for a second. Yes, there are different publishers in there. There's Bethesda, and there's Machine Games, and there's, of course, Activision. But who owns all of that? That would be Xbox. That would be Microsoft owns all of that. So, again, put into perspective, let it sink in. Sony's biggest lineup next year are not their own games. They're Xbox-owned IP. That should tell you all you need to know about whether or not Xbox is dying, dead, or they're packing it in. Let's get your thoughts, Jamie.
Before I get on with the point, I just want to say that, Death Stranding was pushed as a console seller for PlayStation for years.
Indeed it was.
Even up until it was released. It was this brand new Kojima Productions title. Everyone was talking about it. It looked amazing. It's freaky as anything. And when it came to Xbox, absolute silence. No doom and gloom. No, oh, they're taking an exclusive away from us. No one in chat going, why are they doing this, Sony? They're taking my games away. Nobody did that. Everyone was quiet. Everyone was fine. And I got that game for free. Nice. I think, the industry's changing, and it's weird because everyone's wondering what the hell's going on, right? It doesn't matter if you 4 games going to other platforms or wanting them to stay on, said platforms. Like, I'll use Disney as an example. Disney bought Fox for tens of billions of dollars, almost as much as the ABK deal. And that was to get not just the, certain Marvel characters, but all the Fox content. So if you go on Disney Plus outside of the US, you have things like 24, Prison Break. Basically anything Fox has made is on Disney Plus. So, like, for me, I subscribe to Disney Plus for all of the Fox content. I barely touch the Disney stuff anymore. So for me, I'm getting my value with that. But over the past several months, do you know where all of that Fox content has been going in the UK and other countries? Netflix. And in the UK, we have these free TV subscription services. Well, they're not even subscription services. They're just free streaming services called ITVX and All 4, where you can literally watch Disney movies for free legally. So why would Disney spend tens of billions of dollars to get these franchises, all these properties, to put on alternate and, competitive platforms? It's weird, right? Nobody's talking about that. And I've just been noticing a lot lately. Like, Netflix is filled with Fox content over the past month or so. So nobody's talking about how Disney Plus is doom and gloom. Disney Plus is going to the wayside, all that stuff. People are abandoning Disney Plus because all the Fox content's going elsewhere. Nobody's talking about that. The industry's weird at the minute, right? The pandemic changed everything. Gaming has been basically the same for decades. Back in the early 2000s, you have iTunes and Apple changing the music industry, where you went from buying entire albums in a store to buying single songs from iTunes for 99 cents. It's completely changed the music industry. Then books changed. Books went digital. Then movies and TV went to subscription services. And now the biggest TV shows aren't even on mainstream television. They're on subscription apps.
Yes.
Right? So, like, if you were to tell someone 20 years ago that this is how we watch TV and movies, they think, and I'll see people in chat saying that what I'm saying doesn't make sense. You have to let me finish my point, because I see people freaking out over this stuff, and, like, people losing their marbles. And, like, I don't like this move, by the way, that Microsoft's doing.
Of course,
I'll get to that. My point is that all these industries are changing, but gaming has kind of been the same for decades. And now things are changing. People don't like change. People are creatures of habit. And Microsoft, their messaging has been horrendous. What they're doing right now may end up working. It may not. We don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell the bloody future. But I can say that Microsoft, I'm a console gamer. I prefer console. I prefer Microsoft's games and their variety. And look, I'm excited about the future of Xbox Game Studios titles. Next year looks fantastic and beyond. But the optics of Microsoft and Xbox at the minute, their messaging is horrendous. Their number one issue for decades was first-party content consistently. And they never really fixed that for years and years and years. And then we finally get to a point where Microsoft has all these studios making multiple games. And what do you know? The quality is super high. People are loving these games. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is amazing. And it looks like over the next year, we're going to get really high quality games. That's great, right? Problem solved. But the second big issue Xbox has had for a long time is messaging. They do not have clear messaging. Look at 2013, right? We were hearing rumors about a check-in for the Xbox One to play your games. We were hearing it was 24 hours from one person. Then it was 12 hours from someone else. Then we heard it was 1 week from someone else. And we heard all this in the same bloody day. People didn't know what was going on. And then, they changed all that stuff. They went back on it, thankfully. And, ever since Microsoft, they just have this consistent ability of just messing up messaging, right? Look at this. 2024 was going to be their big year, right? Their big year. in first party content. They had this amazing lineup, and I think it's been a great year for first party Xbox games. Well, they started off this year with rumors about multi-platform stuff, people doom and glooming. You have people on Twitter saying that they're leaving the console space, sounding crazy the way they went about it. And the way people are online about this was crazy. And then Microsoft came out and said, hey, it's these 4 games. Don't think it's going to be Indiana Jones or Starfield, right? And then literally hours later, we hear like Tom Warren did an interview with Phil Spencer, and Phil Spencer literally said in the interviews he wasn't denying that those games will ever come. Within 1 hour, right, or so, the messaging had changed, and fans were annoyed, understandably so. And what happened? A few weeks later, we got the Digital Direct, where everyone was super hyped about all these new games. The gameplay looked great. Avowed, Indiana Jones gameplay looked great. It was good news, right? Xbox was back. And then the multi-platform rumors start happening again. Then all these games dropped on PlayStation. Sea of Thieves was basically the only success out of the 4 games.
Yes, correct.
And by the way, nobody likes to bring that up, you know. And then we had Doom and Gloom, and then we had the Summer Showcase, and they had the best Summer Showcase I've probably ever seen. And
In fact, gaming history, it's literally tip of spear. No doubt.
And a lot of detractors online, even like big, like massive YouTube content creators, were like, that was a great show. And Xbox was back again. And then we had multi-platform rooms. And the one more thing at Gamescom was a PlayStation 5 logo on the end of the Indiana Jones trailer. I apologize if I'm messing up my speaking, my bronchitis.
No, it's fine, brother. It's fine.
But that logo at the end of the trailer really made people mad, you know, because we were told one thing and then something else happened. And, you know, the ABK deal went through. People all happy we're going to get all these Call of Duty games and Game Pass. And then right before Christmas, a week before Christmas, we hear these multi-platform rumors getting doom and gloom stuff. And all I have to say is Microsoft, they just have to be crystal clear with the messaging. They have to come out, and I'm not saying in a podcast style what they did back in January or a blog post. They just need to be concise and stick to the point. Microsoft has never had this thing, which I like to call follow through. They've never let their plans play out. They didn't with the Xbox One, whether people like the plans or not. They bought all these studios in 2018 and more so in 2019, and when with the Activision deal and Bethesda. They bought these studios for exclusive content, exclusive games, and they never let these games play out to see if they would sell their consoles. The number one reason to buy a console is for games. And if you can choose between, hey, I want to play, let's say, Starfield and Indiana Jones on a console, I can get an Xbox. But in the future, what if you want to play Indiana Jones, Starfield, and also Final Fantasy? You have to buy a PlayStation until these games also come over to Xbox, which Square Enix has said they will. But like that's why fans are annoyed at the minute. We're not being told consistently what's actually happening. We have rumors coming out all over the place saying, "Hey, these multi-platform things are happening. The end of consoles is happening," which I saw last night, which I don't think is happening. Microsoft actively developing next-gen hardware. And Microsoft, they just have to fix the messaging. They clearly don't want to let their exclusives play out and see if they're going to build, more console sales. They clearly don't want to see that happen for some reason. And I think that's a bit weird. You've got to think someone at Microsoft does realize that, because whenever Xbox is brought up, people bring up Game Pass. Microsoft makes a lot of money off Game Pass. However, Microsoft makes even more money off just games selling on the platform, right? So for people saying that Xbox is going away and Xbox doesn't care about console sales, they really have to, because most of the money comes from sales, microtransactions, battle passes, basically anything on the Xbox store. And you can't get those things basically any other way. Like, yes, you have the PC store, but PC gamers really prefer Steam. You have streaming, which hasn't really taken off in a lot of countries yet. So really, realistically, we're looking at Xbox as a console when it comes to the platform. And look, that marketing campaign that happened recently, this is an Xbox thing.
An Xbox, yeah.
I was quiet about this because when Microsoft started talking about that, it's actually something they've been doing for years. It's just they didn't put a name to it. Xbox's strong suit has always been the integrated ecosystem. You've had Play Anywhere. You've been able to take your saves from an Xbox 360, send them to the cloud, and play them on an Xbox One or an Xbox Series X or S, right? That is an amazing feature, which I use every single week. But they put this is an Xbox like tagline on it, and it made people freak out, thinking, oh, they're abandoning the console. It's like, no, they've literally been doing this for years. Hell, PlayStation used to do this. They used to advertise, when they bought Gaikai, they used to advertise, hey, you can play these games on a PlayStation 3, an iPad, or a PC. It's the same bloody thing, it's just with a different name. But I'll get back to my original point. Xbox gamers that are bought into the ecosystem for decades, years, whatever, they want to know that their games are safe. It's all about legacy. Because if I buy a game today, I want to be able to play this game, not just a year from now. I want to know that
10 years from now.
Yeah, 10 years from now. Like, I still want to play my copy of Mass Effect Legendary Edition when I'm in my 80s, right? I want that to happen, right? When I'm sitting in my hover chair. I want that to happen. And I want that to happen on an Xbox with my continued save progress. And I want that with all my games. And I think that is a major concern for Xbox folk. And it's a good concern because it makes sense. Xbox, we don't really know. Like, Jez put out that article today about, exclusives are the exception, not the rule or whatever. Right? Xbox, they just need to come out and say it, right? Come out and tell us what's the deal. Now, do I think Xbox should have exclusives to sell their, console? Yes. I think things like Halo and your Gears and stuff like that, I think things like that should be exclusive, or at least, for like 5-6 years or whatever. Because look, Death Stranding was all over the place. Billed as a PlayStation console seller for years. And when it came to Xbox, literally 5 years to the day later, no one blinked an eye. Nobody cared.
Nope.
And if you were to say, like, hey, what if Halo Infinite came to PlayStation 5 years later? Would really anyone care? Has anyone really waited 5 whole years to play, Halo Infinite because it might come to PlayStation? So be it. Like, they were never going to buy an Xbox to begin with, if that's the case.
Yes.
I just think Xbox, they need to come out and say what the deal is. And a major problem, and I talk about this on my podcast all the time, and it's the thing that really annoys me, is that Phil Spencer and people at Xbox do interviews and talk constantly. Xbox has this roadmap that goes out multiple years for video games. PlayStation doesn't. Do you know what people are talking about? They're not talking about games. They're talking about the optics of Xbox as a platform.
Yep.
When we don't know what's happening with PlayStation, they just closed studios. Concord is literally the biggest failure of all time, bigger than E.T., which tanked the gaming industry in the West, right? That's absurd, right? Yep. It's absurd. And I think, Xbox, they just need to come out and say what the deal is, right? Because they have these amazing lineup of games coming out. People want to know that their money invested in the Xbox ecosystem is safe. And that's all they have to do. Can they do that? Absolutely. Will they? I hope. But I just think Microsoft, they need to stop doing interviews all the time. Like, every week this past year, Phil Spencer does this interview and he's asked about exclusivity. It's annoying. Xbox fans must be tired of this by now.
Yeah, and I agree.
And, I've been talking for what feels like an hour straight. I'll just say this. Xbox, they just need to get the shipping order. Be honest with their hardcore fan base, because we're the ones that make them money. Yes, the millions of people that buy an Xbox or PlayStation for FIFA or GTA, like, that is a lot of money for those consoles, but there's people like us that invest tens of thousands, if not more, into the ecosystem over decades. I think, bringing games to alternate platforms, it's not the end of the world, but they actually need to tell people what's going on rather than have the head of Microsoft that doesn't play video games loosely talk about it in an investor's call.